Alright, welcome to the first episode of Unapologetic Geek Out. This is Nick, and this is my co-pilot,
Travis.
The object of this podcast is to go over some movie news, some trailers, stuff that we're pretty much interested in and want to geek out about, and we're going to go into our main topic, and our first main topic for this episode will be Star Wars. Yeah!
You're so excited, aren't you?
I am fucking excited. Oh, by the way, we swear on this podcast.
Should have mentioned that before.
Yes, we're going to be explicit. I especially get excited, and when I get excited, I use terms that could offend some small children, pregnant women, and
Religious people.
Yes, if you fit any of those demographics, you probably want to turn the podcast off right now.
Or just ignore them.
Or you can just ignore me, focus on Travis's lovely dulcet tones, and we can just get started right away. How about we go into trailers? First trailer we should probably talk about is the big one. The big will video game movies finally have a good movie. Warcraft. We just watched the trailer. As far as I can see, it looks pretty silly.
It looks generic.
It's very heavy CGI. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I am not a big World of Warcraft player. I'm not a really big MMO player as well. That's Travis, you know a little bit more about that. Is this being faithful to World of Warcraft at all?
I don't know much more about World of Warcraft than you do, actually. I could ask, around, but honestly, I've known nothing about their story other than that there's orcs. Yeah, although I am already calling, there's probably be an interracial love triangle.
You calling that right off the bat?
You didn't see it?
I saw a baby orc Moses. I thought that would be interesting.
No. The one female orc is obviously going to be in it with the two male main characters, the one orc and the one human.
Really?
I'm calling it.
Did you right from the trailer?
Just from the trailer.
I did not get that, but you know what? I would not put it past them.
I mean, there's going to be an interracial love.
I'll tell you what, one thing I do like about it is that it's showing the orcs having their own kind of tribal mentality, and that they're not all about malice and fucking over the Alliance. Is that what the humans are called? It's Alliance and the Horde, right? Yeah. So the Horde, at least there's some good factions of the Horde that are going to try and prevent this war that obviously is going to not work because we're not going to have a huge orc battle at the end of this movie. No. Communications are going to break down, and only at the end are we going to have some sort of weird truce. But I think I would appreciate maybe if they would use some practical effects.
It's always better that way.
I mean, even the armor on the Alliance looks like CGI edited, and I don't know, everything. When they do that in movies, it has this weird fake look to me that I don't. It makes me disconnect. I know everything isn't real.
A little too much veneer, too much polish.
It's too. Yeah, you're right. It's too smooth. It's too clean, you know what I mean?
Orcs shouldn't be clean.
Yeah, related to our topic, it's kind of like the problem the prequels had, where their universes were way too green screen, too clean. Never felt like any of the actors were really there.
Right. Well, especially since that one was one of the first times they were using green screen heavily. So
right. But CGI is we're supposed to have advanced technologically to this point. Yeah. But it doesn't really look like it. But we'll see. We'll see. Our next trailer, Finding Dory. Of all the Pixar movies that I thought needed sequels, Finding Nemo was not one of them.
No.
It did not seem like that story seemed pretty wrapped up. We found him. We found Nemo. We got
remember
him.
That movie made a lot of money.
It did make a lot of money. But focusing on one of the sub-characters is not a new thing, especially with animated movies.
True. For
the sequel. Dory seems a weird person to make a main character, considering she does not have long-term memory, or seems not to.
Although you do have one of your favorite movies does involve a character similar to that.
If we are going to combine Dory with Memento, I would actually love if she's going to tattoo must find family on her fins.
I'm pretty sure that's already a meme.
I think that's already a shirt. Yeah, I would be all down for that. But this trailer, it actually looked pretty good. It was pretty cute. Yeah, I'll admit.
It looks like it's gonna stay very campy, which is probably the best for it.
Yeah. It's pretty small. We're not a whole lot about the story so far. Just All we know is that Dori is looking for her family. Like, she finally remembered where she left them, like car keys. I'm a little more excited about, like, The Incredibles 2
Right.
as far as
excited for The Incredibles 2.
As far as Pixar sequels go. But you know what? I'm a little more interested in this one than I first was. So I'll give that to the trailer. Our next one, a little bit of a downturn. Alice Through the Looking Glass. Yeah.
Well, at least this one's CGI looked better.
Yeah.
The effects are nice.
I was actually kind of digging it until the halfway point where the whole story becomes we have to save the Hatter.
I'm kind of hoping that they just showed the Hatter a lot because it's, Johnny Depp. Since they're saving him, he won't actually be in 100% of the movie.
It looks like the same. It's Tim Burton again. Yeah. It's Johnny Depp. They got Helen Bonham Carter back as the, is she the Queen of Hearts or the Red Queen?
They kind of combine the characters.
They combine them both, right?
Yeah.
Well, whatever one she is, she's like my favorite part of that first movie.
Right.
Because her crazy chop off the heads character was actually kind of fun to watch.
Yes.
We have our same boring main character that's going to be pushed out of the way for all of the sub-characters, including the Hatter. Mm-hmm. We got Sacha Baron Cohen playing Time as a personification of time in this universe. I've never really read the Alice in Wonderland books.
I have not read in one.
So yeah, I'm not sure what his character is based off of, but he's got a weird looking design, which is pretty fitting for Tim Burton.
I like Tim Burton. It's just, I'm kind of getting a little sick of his same, like, it's always the same with him. It's always getting Johnny Depp to kill his wife.
Yeah, it is getting a little repetitive. Stale. And it's been repetitive for quite a while, in my opinion. And I don't know if this is gonna break the little slump that I feel like he's in.
I almost wish he would just go back to claymation.
If he could maybe go back a little more, because Alice in Wonderland, the thing is it never struck me as a gothic type place.
Well, that's a more modern times it has been done quite a few times like that just because of the surrealism of the environment. The world of Wonderland kind of changed with the times, I think is more the point.
I don't know. I feel like I'm just not. It would take a very good trailer to get me excited about that movie, and this just wasn't.
Like I said, I'd probably go see it for the effects and every other actor besides Alice and the Hatter, but other than that, yeah.
Sure. Our next trailer, a little more exciting, at least for me, Ip Man 3. This one, if you don't know, the Ip Man series is a series starring Donnie Yen, based off of the real-life person Ip Man, who trained Bruce Lee. Loosely based, I would guess.
Well, that's what they all are nowadays.
Well, based on a true story is just not what it means anymore. But Ip Man 1 and 2 are probably one of my favorites martial arts movies. Donnie Yen being like my favorite martial artist. I just never seen anyone who fights the way he does and as fast as he does.
It's very impressive.
He has a scene in Ip Man 1 where he fights about 10 guys at a time in the middle of this training exercise. And the way he moves there, where he hits a guy multiple times with like strikes from his hand, it looks like on an anime when they After Effect and you can see the guy punching with 3 arms.
Yeah. Because
he's moving so fast. He looks like that in real life. In real life, he looks like an anime character. He moves so fast.
Yeah. If you haven't watched them before, we definitely do advise you to go see them.
Oh, absolutely. They're definitely worth your time.
Don't go see them if you're going to have a problem with the third one being not quite the same.
Well, all we can go by is the trailer, and the trailer for this one does not make it look like Chinese epic. It makes it look more like an 80s style action film.
It kind of looked like it should have been in Boston. You could just replace them with... replace them with Mark Wahlberg.
Well, the area they're in, it does have this like weird rundown Boston feel, but with just a bunch of Asian people fighting in it instead. Yeah, we don't really know anything about the story from this trailer.
No.
The reason I think it feels like an 80s style action movie is it just shows the action, and then for the kicker at the end of it, it shows the crossover. Like where our main guy would fight the villain, and it would be like Jean-Claude Van Damme or Steven Seagal versus Sylvester Stallone or something. But in this one, it's Donnie Yen versus Mike Tyson, which... I don't know about you, but that seems out of nowhere to me.
I mean, it fit for my idea of it, just being Mark Wahlberg beating up punks in Boston, but...
Anyway, the action in it still looks good. A lot of people getting hit in the face with fists.
A lot of people getting hit in the face.
With blunt objects. A lot of people gonna need some facial reconstructive surgery. Looks pretty fun. Okay, our next one is actually an animated film, Batman Bad Blood.
Still think Taylor Swift is probably gonna sue for that.
It was my season for Russell Ghouls, Joker scars, back broke, bruised, stabbed in my side, shorties died, tumbling, jumping, and all that time I was money and power. So you gotta live with the bad blood now.
Yeah, maybe a little weird choice of a subtitle, considering this film looks like it's borrowing heavily from the new Batman and Robin series, where Batman has gone missing. He's not there. The trailer doesn't really explain why. Nightwing is taken over as Batman. It's unclear as whether or not they don't want people to know if Batman's out of commission, or if it's more of a legacy thing. Well, Batman's out of commission and the world needs a Batman sort of thing. Looks like he's going to be babysitting Damian Wayne, the new Robin. We've had the previous two Batman movies, animated movies, be with the new Robin, his son from Talia al Ghul. And he is a little shit.
It's kind of awesome, though.
I'll admit, he's a more fun character in the animated movies than in the comics. In the comics, he comes off a lot more annoying. In the animated movies, he comes off as just a little bit like a sociopath.
Considering his parents, that's to be, assumed.
Sure, and we have our first introduction in the animated universe, as far as I know, of Batwoman. Mm-hmm. Played by Yvonne Strahovski, or however, the Miranda from Mass Effect, the girl from Chuck.
Oh my god, we're gonna have such a white demographic.
I can't, it's like, you pronounce it.
I have to see it.
You gotta see it? Okay. Anyway, we have the introduction of her as playing Batwoman, and Batwing. He came around during Batman Incorporated, back when Batman was franchising out, like McDonald's or something.
Gotta have a bat for every place.
Batwoman in the comics, there's a little small discrepancy. She does not use guns at all. She is very much like Batman, using the grappling hooks and batarangs and her own fists. Yeah. So the gun thing throws me.
It made it seem like she wasn't really related to them at all. I don't know how she came up in this universe, but I doubt she would get along with Batman
in the comic universe, she is ex-military of some sort, and she got kicked out for being gay. She's actually one of the big gay characters in comics, actually. Huh. One of the more prominent ones, anyway. But yeah, I don't really, I don't know if it's the fanboy in me, but her using guns strikes a raw chord in me.
You're
that
such a stickler.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. The DC animated movies have usually been the best place to go for DC storylines, because the movies ain't the place to go, that's for sure.
It's Batman, so it's allowed to be dark and gritty, but they don't make it the theme.
Sure. One of my favorite animated films is actually Assault on Arkham, right, which was really good. Of course, their animated TV shows were great. Mm-hmm. Justice League Unlimited, Batman Beyond, the original Batman animated series, along with the Superman series. Yep. They have a great standing tradition with their animated films and animated projects. However, their latest crop have been pretty hit and miss for me. Ever since they decided that they were going to follow the New 52, where they rebooted the whole DC universe, and they wanted their animated films to reflect that. We had films like Justice League War, which featured the new Justice League in the rebooted New 52 universe, with Green Lantern being kind of a dick, and...
Was it the white Green Lantern then?
Yeah, the white one. And Superman dating Wonder Woman, which I also find pretty boring.
Yeah. Wonder Woman's interesting, but Superman is not.
We've had good films. The Batman films, it seems like we can only have Superman and Batman films out of the animated films right now.
Well, we had two others that were at least fun to watch, so Flashpoint Paradox.
Paradox.
That one was kind of awesome.
I suppose we should figure out what rating this movie is going to be, because that always gets me, is that I see these movies in the kids sections of Walmarts and Targets and stuff like that.
We're just going to point this out. Parents that are listening, if you are listening, please do not let your children watch these. They are terrifying.
Well, we don't know about this one. No. The trailer looks like there's going to be some combat. Not sure how much blood and gore is going to be in it. But as far as Assault on Arkham and Flashpoint Paradox goes, people die really horribly in those movies.
Or the Gods and Monsters one as well.
The Gods and Monsters ones also has a lot of death, graphic on-screen death. In Flashpoint Paradox, Superman liquefies people into stains on the ground, and people keep getting arms chopped off. We see the Reverse Flash get a bullet through his brain.
It's pretty explicit on that
and
one,
it is,
too.
it is explicit. We see the hole and we see brain matter.
Yeah.
It is a little disconcerting to me that I see these movies in the kids section all the time.
We just need something better than, this is anime, therefore it's for children section.
And for our last trailer, we're going to move away from movies. We're going to go to a teaser trailer for a video game, actually. Last week we had N7 Day. For those of you who don't know, the N7 Day is a celebration of all things Mass Effect. BioWare was nice enough to give us a teaser for Mass Effect Andromeda. Mostly it's stock footage of space exploration with Jennifer Hale, the voice of Female Shepard, narrating over it. We get a final shot of what looks like this big ship that we're going to explore with in the new game. I'm getting a Noah's Ark type feel.
It did feel a lot like that,
Yeah. Jennifer Hale basically is saying throughout the trailer, we are explorers, the human race needs you to be the explorers now. It very much sounds like Shepard saying a final goodbye, which is really nice. Actually, it gave me the feels when I watched it.
It was very chilling.
I got chills, I'll say. A little bit of controversy, from male fans again. I bet you the same people who got mad in the Mad Max movies when he wasn't kind of the main character of that movie.
I still have to actually meet one of these people in real life. I kind of want to, so I can see.
I like to think that most of these people, like with most trolls, that they are the loud minority. Like they are just, there's like maybe 50 guys that are just super loud about it on the internet.
That's probably true.
I suppose most people still play as male Shepard, although female Shepard has a very big, very loud cult following. I don't know about you, but I am FemShep. FemShep for life for me, and Paragon till death.
I typically play, my main character was male Shep, and then mine was more neutral. He just kind of acted how he wanted.
As far as Andromeda goes, we're still pretty much in the dark about it. The only thing we know is we're going to be exploring a new galaxy, new threat. We're going to still be playing as a human, as an N7, Space Marine. Anyway, let's move on to the news. And as far as the news goes, how about we start off with some Star Wars news? We have theaters are banning certain aspects of costumes and weapons at movie theaters. Apparently they're afraid of nerd lightsaber battles.
Somehow I doubt that's all they're worried about.
The official statement here is Cinemark, the third largest theater chain in the U.S., states, Star Wars costumes are welcome, however no face coverings, face paint, or simulated weaponry, including lightsabers or blasters, will be allowed in the building.
That's pretty much true for any business, is they don't allow that kind of thing.
Right, but I think the thing here is that Star Wars is a very traditional dress up to go see a movie.
I understand.
It's very much part of the culture, but that was back in a day before the Aurora shooting. I think they're just a little nervous about, things looking like real weapons and anyone with a face covering. I think they're worried more about liability than anything.
I don't doubt it. And I don't blame them either. In the end, that's not only just, avoiding a lawsuit for themselves, but just protecting their customers.
AMC also is restricting costumes and stuff like that.
You're not dressing up, right, when we go see it?
I don't really have anything much to dress up as.
Okay.
I'm not a big cosplayer. I do get the appeal though, and I could see why people would be bummed. I'm not going to dress up, but I'll probably wear like a Star Wars t-shirt or something like that. People love to dress up as like stormtroopers, Jedis, but it looks like you can dress up. There's for our local movie theater chain, which is Marcus. Yeah, just check your local movie chain and see what their rules are. But I couldn't find anything on the Marcus channel for dressing up, so I don't know if there's any restrictions. But also, you can dress up as long as you don't cover your face or bring anything that could be misconstrued as a weapon. Mm-hmm. So you can still dress up as like Han, Solo, Leia. Which brings me transition to my next news story. Look at that, my first transition. How is that? Did I do pretty good? Okay, our first. Till I drew attention to it because now it's an awful transition. But unless you want to dress up as Slave Leia, you might want to pick up your costume right now, or you're going to have to make it yourself. The company is not going to manufacture or sell any Slave Leia merchandise. Huh. So no costumes, no dolls, action figures.
I'll try it.
It is a sexually explicit costume, but it's been like 30 years. Since Return of the Jedi, And even then, you know, in the context of the story, it makes sense. She's Jabba's slave. She's not cool with it the whole time. She ends up choking Jabba with the own chain.
It's a pretty good scene.
Pretty ironically. As far as the outfit goes, yeah, it's scantily clad woman, but it's not like it's there for no reason. I don't know, maybe it's because they're owned by Disney now, but they've been owned by Disney for a while, so this seems like an odd move to make now.
Not really sure on that one. I mean, it is degrading costume, but like you said, it was because it was a degrading position. It wasn't exactly her choosing to dress up like that. But I guess at the same time, they don't really need other people dressing up like that.
The thing I think is that if people want to dress up like Slave Leia, they're going to dress up like Slave Leia. You guys have not met cosplayers. They can make costumes way better than the ones you sell.
They'll make something look better than that.
Yeah. Shia Labeouf is in the news again.
Now what?
Now what indeed? Get a load of this. Shia LaBeouf's new, I guess you'd call it performance art piece, is to...
I think he's just making a meme on himself.
He, as we speak, is live right now recording himself watching his own movies. He's in a theater right now watching his own movies in a marathon that will last 3 days. So I'm guessing he's watching all of them. And he's recording himself, like his face, watching them. You can go online right now and watch him watch himself.
That's that's Inception level right there.
I think, yeah, the dream's collapsing. The dream's collapsing. I'll tell you what, Shia LaBeouf, he keeps surprising me.
Yeah.
I'll give him that.
I guess we just let him keep doing what he wants to do.
It's such a weird, like, are we supposed to make fun of him? Because it's kind of hard when he makes it, like, he lays it up so easily for us.
I think we're just supposed to get enjoyment out of Shia LaBeouf being himself.
It's not even like he stated this was performance art. I'm just assuming that it's performance art. Because that sounds like what someone would do for performance art.
I think he's just actually made himself into the first meme generator.
Is he a real life meme now?
Yes.
Shia LaBeouf, the first human meme.
First would be probably a stretch, but...
Well, okay.
He is the first explicit meme generator.
Anyway, I love this because it's actually a news story. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Wonder Woman is about to go in production. That's an actual news story. But you know why it's an actual news story? Because this movie has been trying to be made for years now.
There will be film being, used soon.
Well, I have the same feeling I have for this movie as I do the Deadpool movie, is that I just hope it gets made so I don't have to hear about this movie almost getting made.
Yeah, except you actually are excited about Deadpool.
It sounds like they've cast Nicole Kidman in Wonder Woman.
Huh.
It says that she is cast as a high-ranking Amazonian warrior. And to me, that means that she's Hippolyta. She's Wonder Woman's mom. It's Nicole fucking Kidman. They're not gonna have her be a stand-in, a high-ranking Amazonian warrior. Just say it's Hippolyta. Who else could it be? I mean, I'm saying that right now. I could be wrong, I guess.
It'd be funny if you were, because now we have proof.
It would be great if I was wrong, because the first thing I'm really wrong about on this show, episode 1 being wrong, that would be a great start-off point. But for me, that's the only option there is.
It would make sense.
We're going to switch over to some video game news. We have Borderlands, the online game. Sounds like some sort of weird multiplayer online only game is now been canceled.
Oh, thank God.
So I mean, I didn't.
Tragic.
I have the same feeling. I didn't even know it was in production until I saw the article that it was canceled.
Well, I'm still waiting for our other DLC for the prequel.
Well, that is related to also this story where they not only is that game canceled, their 2K China studio has shut down, and with that is the cancellation of I think that DLC we were waiting on. And the Borderlands online multiplayer game of some sort. Borderlands is an MMO type online game. Kinda sounds maybe like fun. But then again, it sounds like something that they could easily just make super generic and on the cheap.
Every time they come up with these, based off something MMOs, we all go, well that could be good.
That could be good. DC Online. Oh, that could be really cool.
Yep. Star Wars.
Yep, Star Wars. I haven't played Star Wars, but I have played DC.
Well, it went free to play fairly quick. So.
Well, I think that's if you're not World of Warcraft, I think you have to go free to play. At least that's what I think. In this market right now, people aren't really willing to pay month to month anymore. Anyway, yeah, well, as a game that I am kind of excited about, we have the Kickstarter for the Friday the 13th game actually got funded.
This is interesting.
I know, and the description actually is, it's a third-person multiplayer game in which that one player controls Jason, while 7 others take control of camp counselors who are attempting to survive the night.
Oh my god, that sounds very similar to the Alien vs. Predator game.
It sounds like if you played a multiplayer game, most of them have a mode like this. In Halo, it's called Juggernaut, where one guy is the super powerful character and he's hunting the other people. In Alien vs. Predator, it was the Predator mode, where Predator was hunting a bunch of Marines. In Chronicles of Riddick, they had a mode like this where one of you played as Riddick hunting mercenaries. And as far as multiplayer modes go, this is by far my favorite type of mode.
Yes, it's very fun.
It is fun as shit. It is so much fun to be that super powerful badass. And it also, on the other end, is fun to run away and try and survive and kill the...
It's kind of fun knowing that there is an intelligence behind the enemy you're fighting, the big bad.
Sure. I was kind of, when I heard Friday the 13th game, I was like, how does that work? And then I read the summary and I'm like, oh, that's exactly how it can work.
That would be how it would work.
It sounds like a very interesting to me. I'm kind of interested in see where that's going, so we're going to keep an eye on that. Here's some news you'll find exciting. Dark Souls 3 gets a release date. Yay! So we're looking at an April 12th, 2016.
Oh, I can get this for my birthday.
Yep, it's not too far off. Along with the announcement, there's a collector's edition as well as a prestige edition.
It'll probably come with maps or something.
I think each one comes with a different statue, concept art, the traditional collector's edition stuff. You know, the normal swag that kind of comes with these types of games. I'm not really one to get the swag edition of the games. Sometimes I'm tempted. The Arkham Asylum had a pretty cool...
Anything that involves a batarang.
But the Arkham Asylum gave you a batarang, so I'm already like, well, I'm up for a batarang. I'm kind of cool with that. Normally, whatever swag they give you for a collector's edition is not really worth the extra, $50? $50 you're gonna pay.
I still have to play Bloodborne, which apparently is getting a release with just its DLC and the full game for $34 coming out at the end of this month, so that'll be nice.
I'm partway through my first playthrough of Dark Souls, which is actually the second in this series, right? Because at first it's Demon Souls.
Demon Souls is, well, technically it goes actually a little bit further back. They keep getting spiritual successors.
Yeah.
I think King's Field was technically, I don't know if that was the first, but I think that was the previous successor.
As far as actual franchises, Dark Souls is the only one, right?
Yes. Because it's the only one with multiple games.
It's the only one with 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know about King's Field.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we're gonna take a break. And we'll be back with our main topic, which will be Star Wars. So we'll be back with that right after this.
Long time ago, far, far away.
Kiss a Wookiee, kick a toy, fly the Falcon through an asteroid till the princess is annoyed. This is spaceships, it's monsters, it's Star Wars, we love it, come and help me. Obi-Wan, X-Wing fighter, and the blaster gun, dance with Ewoks, so what fun. This is spaceships, it's monsters, it's Star Wars, we love it.
And we're back. And before we went to the break, I said we were going to our main topic, which would be Star Wars, but I'm a liar. I am a liar and a thief and a cheat.
This is true.
So we were actually going to talk a little bit about Fallout, which just came out. I believe it was yesterday.
I think 2 days ago.
It was 2 days ago. Oh yeah. So that a heavy sci-fi post-apocalyptic game. I played Fallout 3.
As did I.
It was very fun. And who wouldn't want Liam Neeson as their dad?
Of course not. He'd at least come for you, right?
That's like a dream for me, is that, Liam Neeson being dad, that way if ever I got, kidnapped, he would save me with his certain set of skills. Anyway, a very anticipated game. A lot of advertising campaigns, people really excited about it. How do you feel about it, Travis?
Well, I mean, I really enjoyed it so far. I mean, not that I would have went out and bought a PS4 just for that certain game.
Have you broken your the new console cycle? cherry or?
Well, I informed you that they did not have a bundle for Fallout 4.
Okay. You're right, because they sell the PS4 in bundles now.
Yes.
I think the latest one being the Uncharted collection.
Correct. Well, I wasn't lying. They do not sell in a bundle. Best Buy just gives it for free.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I went on their website and found out that Best Buy, and I believe GameStop as well, is currently giving out Fallout 4 for free if you buy a PS4 bundle.
Really?
It also comes with a free charger, which is pretty much only useful if you have more than 3 controllers, but it's still nice.
Well, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it also got the price drop as well.
Oh, so we have the PS4 price drop.
The price drop.
The price drop.
Free.
You get the free game, whatever the collection you come in.
Yep.
And if you buy it through GameStop or Best Buy, you also get Fallout?
I'm not sure how long this is going for, but yes, currently you can get Fallout for free.
Holy crap. Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah.
At least they haven't advertised that.
It's on their website, but you'd probably have to look for it.
Okay, yeah, if you are listening to this and you want, if you don't already have a PS4, this sounds like a pretty good time to get one. I can't imagine a better deal than that.
I thought about waiting until Black Friday or Cyber Monday, but I saw that. I'm like,
sure.
Okay, no, I'm getting this now.
Well, yeah, that's just a good deal. Especially if you get a game like the Uncharted collection, which is technically 3 games.
Yep.
That's 3 really good games, I might add. The games that are really fun.
Games that I have not actually played yet, so I will get to go do that.
Yeah, is that the one you got?
Yep.
Oh, you are in for a treat, my friend. It's I swear to God, it's Indiana Jones. The video game.
I've seen you and others play it.
Yeah, it's actually one of the fun games to watch being played because it plays out like a Indiana Jones style action movie.
Yep.
And, of course, the main character being played by Nolan North.
Mm-hmm.
Great voice work. What a great character. Probably one of the more favorite characters of the previous console generation. And, we got the new one for the new console generation, which I'm sure will also be great.
Yep.
Yeah. Fuck Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. If you want more Indiana Jones after the original 3 movies, you're going to want to go and get the Uncharted series. So you have started playing Fallout.
I pretty much spent all day yesterday playing it.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you are quite a bit in then, probably.
Well, it's not as if I've done much of the story.
Right. The Fallout and the Bethesda type games, they are really long games that you can plug in hours into without ever completing the main story.
Even doing side quests, I was like, all right, I'm going to do the side quest. That's where I'm going to go, and that's what I'm going to do. And shiny. Yeah, it doesn't last long.
Yeah. So, what's your style of play? What are you playing as right now?
Well, to get into that, I kind of actually explain how they've done the leveling system this time. So if anyone does not want to listen, this will be a little bit spoilers for at least the beginning of the game.
Sure. Okay, we're gonna spoil a little bit of the beginning of the game. If you don't want to spoil it, cut ahead maybe a couple minutes. So from this point on, we're going to spoil at least the beginning of Fallout. So if you want to go in cold, you're going to want to skip ahead.
So the leveling system is similar to other games of the like Fallout 3. They've had it this time where anytime you level, you can either you get 1 attribute point that can either put into any of your skills, which has the same amount, strength, intelligence, perception, luck, the same ones as Fallout 3, or you can put it into any of the skill categories related to those stats.
Oh, okay.
So unlike Fallout 3 where you would only get you only get attribute points, or every once in a while you get a perk point, this one you can anytime you want. Every level you can choose what you want.
I see. Okay, so you get a little more freedom in the leveling system.
Yeah, but going with a little bit more freedom, you do have a little bit more generic. It ends up being that you don't have quite as heavy perks choices as Fallout 3 does, which Fallout 3 has a variety of perks that some people probably have never used before, that you always get depending on different things you complete in the game or different attributes you have. This one, they're very much set. There is, I think, 8 levels. Each stat has an increasing, strength of skill ability as it goes down their related tree. My character, I mainly went down the science tree because they have a really awesome crafting system in Fallout 4. They've taken something very Minecraft-esque to the point where all the junk that was available in Fallout 3 it was mostly there for, to prove the environment was real. tin cans, all that junk.
Sure.
Like cameras lying around.
Yeah.
You can use that in this game.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think was there a crafting system in Fallout 3?
Yes, it was very, very minor. You can craft different weapons. You could assemble like the dart gun. And
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay.
It was not very heavily done.
Oh, I like the dart gun.
The dart gun's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't a main thing of the game. I remember it now though. Yeah. It did exist. I remember it.
This game, not only is there a weapon crafting system, there's a housing system.
Okay.
You can actually take, the random useless junk and you can convert it into steel or plastic or circuitry. It actually allows you to take a position which allows, it gives you multiple places to set these positions in the game, and you can build your own colony.
Really?
Yep, you can build houses, you can actually set up water and plant crops.
So it's like Fallout mixed with SimCity?
A little bit.
Okay.
I'm not getting super in-depth with it because there's, so much to explore, but you do start off in an area called Sanctuary, which is where you can mainly set up. There are various other places as you explore into the game that you can also do this too. You can, like I said, set up planting, watering. You can even set up automated guard turrets so that raiders can't come and just steal all your produce.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably more that I have not quite gotten into yet.
Okay. Well, just from your initial foray into the game, would you say it's worth picking up?
It's definitely fun. I will give you that. I've spent, like I said, almost all day yesterday playing it. Given that is also, you gotta remember, it's a Bethesda game. So just starting the game from when it was first made, it's already crashed on me how many times.
Sure. It's a Bethesda game that we're gonna have launch problems.
Yep.
That's just a fact for games that are this big.
It's just bugs everywhere.
Is it as bad as Skyrim when it first launched?
There's some issues. It's playable, but it definitely has some annoyances. It has crashed 3 or 4 times on me.
Okay.
It does do things where every once in a while it won't let me do anything, but nothing too major.
Okay.
The dog companion's great because it's a dog that's immortal.
Yay, dog meat.
Yes, dog meat is back, and he actually looks like a dog this time.
Oh, okay.
He is actually a German Shepherd that looks like something.
So he's invincible this time around?
Oh, he's immortal.
Oh, okay, so I don't have to go through his puppies every time I kill one of them on accident?
Well, he's immortal. He cannot die, but if he gets wounded to the point where he cannot act anymore, he does limp around and whine until you do something about it.
Oh, okay, so there's no more dog death, but there still is dog abuse.
Yes,
okay.
Very much dog abuse.
Okay.
You can actually use stim packs on him this time in a row to heal him.
Okay.
Very useful, except when he disappears. I've had this happen once in a while. I'll be like, dog meat found something, and then he'll just, I don't know where he is. Dog meat, great companion as long as he's actually there. Other than that, it is very similar to Fallout 4, although there is one thing that actually does bug me that's not an actual bug.
Okay.
It's actually how the story goes, which I've not actually done any of the main story missions except for the beginning, which this one starts off a bit differently, is that you live in this, nice suburban home, you've got a wife and a child, all that jazz. And then this guy comes to the door and knocks and says hey, by the way, since you did military service, you get to go into your vault, free of charge without waiting in line. And of course, 5 minutes later, a nuclear apocalypse happens, as it were to do.
Oh, so we get to see what life is like before the nuclear apocalypse.
Oh yeah, it's very,
cool.
very much, suburbia, just everyone's probably happy, smiling, and it's very brightly colored.
Well, that was always a big selling point with those games, is that it was a destroyed version of that suburban utopia.
So you, of course, go along with your wife and kids and get into this vault, and then they start talking about their usual stuff, and they set you into what they call this decontamination chamber. And everyone goes into their own little individual pods for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, here's the spoiler. They're cryopods.
Okay.
And they actually were using this vault to test on how the effects of long-term cryogenesis are on humans.
Okay.
Well, strangely enough, it doesn't work because, the cryogenesis works, but the people around it don't quite stay there long enough. So your character eventually wakes up momentarily just to find there's raiders in the vault, and they open up your wife, who is of course across from you, that you can see. They open up her pod to steal her child, and then when she doesn't give it, they shoot her. and then you kind of pass out again or refreeze. I wasn't quite clear. So of course you go out, you find your wife, she's dead, and you tell her that you will avenge her and get her son. It seemed a little overdramatic to me, but that's not the main problem I had. The main is you go outside and you find out that, that nuclear apocalypse, that happened 200 years ago. Okay. Apparently you were frozen for 200 years.
Alright.
Now, I don't quite remember how long it has been in Fallout 3 since you've gotten out, but they never explicitly stated that I remember. 200 years just kind of takes me out of it, where I'm like, so somehow all these cars are still, there's still dead corpses in these cars, and there's still pre-war money lying around in quite a large abundance 200 years later.
Well, we do use bottle caps for their money system, right?
Right, but the pre-war money still has value, if not worth for just being the fact that, it's burnable.
Sure.
So, I don't know. That was the only problem I had with that. That was it just took me out of it a bit too much.
Okay.
That if they just didn't explicitly state it, it would have been fine.
Alright, well, it sounds like it'll be interesting to find out. I'll probably play it at some point. I got kind of a backlog of games to play right now. Anyway, should we move into our main topic then?
That sounds good.
Alright, let's move into our main topic, which today for our first episode is Star Wars.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yes, in honor of the new film that is coming out, The Force Awakens. I don't know about you, but I am pretty excited.
I'm getting there.
I've tried to approach this with low expectations. It is not working out for me.
You had low expectations until they played the music.
Until they play the John Williams music. For me, I was very kind of hummed, like, I don't really see why even make a new Star Wars film, blah. But yeah, that first trailer, as soon as that music kicks in, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up and I go, oh no. And then the X-Wings and the TIE Fighters lift off and the sounds are all exactly right. And we got the lightsabers popping up and everything exploding and everything looks super awesome. And I'm like, oh shit. I was converted from a non-believer to like a born-again Star Wars fan at the end of that trailer. And the more they show, the more I'm excited. What's interesting is that we really don't know a lot about the movie right now. I think that has to do with Disney owning the Star Wars right now.
If there's any good coming out of them owning everything, it's just that we hear nothing.
Oh yeah, Disney lawyers are very good at keeping shit under wraps. Not a lot of leaks about anything at all. With other movies, we know almost the whole plot right about now. But as far as we know, we can only kind of guess at what's in the trailer. We get a new bad guy, Kylo Ren.
Yep. He's
the guy with the cross-bladed red lightsaber. He looks like he's kind of at least stolen the look from Darth Vader. We got the two new characters, our new protagonist, it looks like, our black stormtrooper.
Which, even though that's one of the only things we know, it's enough to make people mad.
They were mad because, the stormtroopers are supposed to be clones. How can there be a black one?
No, they're mad because they're racist.
I'm going to go super nerdy right now. The stormtroopers, after a certain event on Camino where another force of clone troopers attacked the Empire after it got set up, they decided to supplement their stormtroopers with other clones and just other recruits.
Well, that, and I'm pretty sure the original actor for the clones was of New Zealand descent, so...
Well, the thing with that is that even if you go complete Star Wars geek on it, it still tracks logically that, yeah, there could be a black stormtrooper. It is not a big deal. We have our female main character, who seems to be it would look to be our Luke of this movie, kind of hanging out on a dusty planet, probably going to get caught up in a galactic incident. Empire still kicking around.
Which makes sense.
Because
surprisingly, they didn't just disappear.
Because surprisingly, just blowing up their Death Star twice, it doesn't make them give up automatically.
Probably puts them in a big debt, though.
But anyway, let's roll this back a little bit. I think since this is our first episode, our episode 1, if you will, I think it's only appropriate we start with...
Do you really want to associate with that?
I think it's only appropriate we start with episode 4 through 6.
Okay.
I think that is the place we should start.
I never got why they numbered those 3 movies 4 through 6. It doesn't make sense.
Anyway, what was can you remember your first experience with Star Wars?
My main childhood experiences, I definitely remember as a kid just not liking episode 2, just because I really disliked watching Luke get his hand cut off. Like, as a child, that really bothered me.
It really fucked with you?
But then again, I also remember having to hide whenever, on The Little Mermaid, they tried killing the crabs, so probably very similar.
Okay. My first experience was when I was really young, and they re-released the original trilogy, the special edition on VHS. So actually, I didn't watch the originals until later. My first experience was the special edition, and as much as people malign the special edition, it still gets the point across to where I was deeply invested in those movies, and my favorite being Empire, The Empire Strikes Back. Mm-hmm. To be fair, that's the one they least mess with in the special editions. There's not, a full-on dance scene with a new CGI alien.
Yeah.
They didn't mess with this. They messed with the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi. They add in new scenes and A New Hope during Mos Eisley. Empire rarely shows like
deviation.
Yeah, they rarely deviate from what the original was.
Well, it's because it was the best movie out of the three of them.
Oh yeah. I would put forth that it's strange Star Wars is a big phenomenon as it is, when I consider that only one of the original trilogy was truly great cinema. Like, to be held up with films like The Godfather,
right?
Classics. A New Hope is good. It is good. It's really good even. It's a little, simple, and it basically introduced the idea of sci-fi for movies. Mm-hmm. For or at least sci-fantasy, I should say.
Right. Sci-fi exists, but the sci-fi fantasy existing.
To the point where we would not have, I would posit we would not have certain sci-fi franchises without Star Wars, without them trying to cash in on the Star Wars cash cow. One example being 20th Century Fox was not interested in any sci-fi movies at all. They wouldn't greenlight them at all until Star Wars came out. And then they greenlit a little movie called Alien. Mm-hmm. And not only did they greenlight it, after they saw the original concept art, they doubled the budget of it. So without Star Wars, we wouldn't have the Alien franchise.
Which also only has a few good movies.
Its few good movies are really good. Excellent. We wouldn't have the original Alien, which is one of our first introductions to sci-fi horror. And to Aliens, out of all the films that try and ape Star Wars and do what Star Wars did in the box office, we have a lot of franchises that just, would be gone without Star Wars. It turns out, George Lucas would lose his mind after a while, but, at a certain, it's actually interesting to realize how little he had to do with some of the movies, like Empire being the best one. Mm-hmm. It was actually the one he least had a hand in.
That always seems to be the case, huh?
Well, he handed off the directing duties to someone else. And some of the most famous scenes are ad-libbed from actors like Harrison Ford.
Of course.
That the famous scene of Han being frozen in Frozen in Carbonite, the Leia saying "I love you" and Han replying "I know." Mm-hmm. That was actually supposed to be a huge speech Han was supposed to say to her right before he gets frozen, and Harrison Ford thought I'll just do this.
Well, didn't he say that he did not think that Solo would do that?
Well, actors, they obviously add in their input, but more often than not, it's the directors that decide what goes into the movies, as well as, combined with their editors. There's a lot of scenes like that in the original trilogy, which makes you wonder just how much of the original trilogy was an accident, and how much, George Lucas actually had an effect on it. Mm. Because we will see later with the prequels, which we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, something got lost in translation. There was some part of the magic formula was not there, and it was a big part.
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with length of movie and budget.
But before we move to that, a little aside, before we got Empire Strikes Back, another Star Wars property came out, which was the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh, God.
I don't know if you have had the pleasure of watching this.
I have not actually seen it.
Many people have not, because this holiday special has been buried in the history books to the point of George Lucas being personally ashamed of it. I have watched a copy of it. If you are interested if you do enough internet sleuthing around, I'm sure you can find a copy. It's out there. You cannot, it's on the internet. Once it's on the internet, you're not going to be able to eliminate it completely. So yeah, it is quite the watch. It has celebrity guests like B. Arthur owning her own bar and having a song and dance number that seems to have nothing to do with the story whatsoever.
Is there actually a story?
No, the story is that Han is in the Millennium Falcon trying to get Chewie home to Kashyyyk for their version of Christmas, which is called Life Day. So the Wookiees have their own Life Day traditions, and you see Chewbacca's family, along with Grandpa Wookiee, getting ready for Life Day preparations, and it goes through the cycle of the cast. Everyone makes an appearance. Carrie Fisher as Leia, Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker comes up. More often than not, it's a little transmission of just them wondering where Han and Chewie are. It's so weird. It's padded out with weird scenes, like the Grandpa Wookiee gets a Life Day gift that's like a virtual reality simulator that he sees dancing like half naked women, and it's this weird trippy scene and song and dance number, and it cuts between that and the Wookiee grunting, and it's super weird and awkward.
So you're watching a Wookiee have masturbatory dreams about.
That is one way to interpret it. I don't know what another way to interpret it is, but that is one way.
Okay.
It is actually quite the watch. If you can, get some like alcohol with some of your friends together and give it a watch. It's kind of fun to actually watch that. Anyway, the original trilogy being a hugely successful franchise, we will cut to years later. The next round of movies being the prequels. I'm not sure about you, but I don't particularly care for any part of the prequels, like, whatsoever.
I liked when the people are actually fighting in, like, the second movie.
Well, let's do. Everyone's talked about what they hate about the prequels. We're not the first ones. We won't be the last.
Yeah.
But let's do let's do something different. Let's talk about some of the things we liked about the prequels. Let's sift through that. What are some of the things we liked about it? I'll have you start because I need to think.
The pod racing was pretty unique. It at least gave the planet some actual culture rather than just being someplace ruled by Hutts.
Sure, and it gives Anakin a mythos as actually being a good pilot.
Yes, which is important for Darth Vader to have.
Sure.
I always find it weird because there's the whole, Anakin built C-3PO, so technically C-3PO and Luke are brothers?
Well, the thing with that is that it never comes up in the original trilogy at all. It's such a weird retcon. It's just there to include C-3PO and R2-D2 into the movie.
Yeah.
And in my mind, they're not necessary. If they were funny, they would be worthy additions, but they never capture the magic of their relationship like they did in the original trilogy.
I guess the problem I have with thinking of more things I liked about the movies is that as they kept releasing more, I started watching them less. Where I watched the episode 1 multiple times because as a kid growing up, it was still Star Wars.
Episode 1 was one of the first movies I saw in the theater. And it was actually one of the first movies I almost fell asleep in the theater because I was still pretty young, and even I could recognize that, like, well, man, most of this movie is super boring.
Yeah,
we're getting off track. What were some of the things we liked? Some of the things we liked. Okay, I'll go next.
Obi-Wan Kenobi's great. I mean,
you know what? You're absolutely right. Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan actually pulls it off. He's actually pretty good. He has that distinction because he's the only actor in the movies that is anywhere halfway decent. But yeah, he is doing a good job channeling the Obi-Wan Kenobi character, and we get to see that character while he's younger, and he's more full of life. He's a little more optimistic. He's funny. He's having a great time.
He also does a great job of being the exasperated teacher.
Sure, yeah, he pulls that off great. Yeah, you're right. He actually is a good addition to it. As far as the rest of it goes,
we saw a Yoda fight. That was great, even if
Yoda CGI fight.
Yeah.
I'll admit that the lightsaber battles get more elaborate, and they get pretty cool. Sometimes they feel a little too staged, but other than that, they are like they can do more stuff than the original movies could, where the original movies felt like a really, really slow fencing style.
Yeah. As a kid, I loved the roller droids. They were great. I thought that was a great design as a kid.
Oh yeah, the droidicas?
Yeah.
With the little shields or whatnot? Yeah. They were cool.
They were fun.
That introduces the thing I don't like, though, is that we have villains that we don't really associate with. Like, the droids are such faceless enemies. Mm-hmm. They are video game villains, like video game characters that they're just zombies or nothing. And later when we get introduced to the Clone Wars with the clones, we have a bunch of carbon copies of clone soldiers that are just bred to fighting these droids that are just built to fight. There's no real consequence or
stakes.
There's no stakes to any of those battles. The only time that it feels like there's any consequences is when any of the Jedi die. Because when one of the Jedi bite it, then you go like, oh wow, that's actually hurts them in a significant way.
Although most of them just die like punks anyway.
Well, that brings back another thing in Revenge of the Sith that I don't like, is that it heavily insinuates that all the Jedi die in like one day, which most of the other media, like the comics, novels, video games, heavily imply that no, that's dumb. Well,
that's such a much better story. Like, let's go hunt for Jedi.
Yeah, the hunt for Jedi is really interesting. Yeah, man, I don't think I can really think of.
I think I'm grasping at straws.
Man, those movies are. Man, the more I think about it, those movies are really terrible. They are just bad. I mean, man, the whole idea of midichlorians.
That's only even mentioned like a few times, and let's just not mention it again.
Yeah, they make the smart decision of not really mentioning that again, because that was dumb, and we don't need an explanation for how the Force works. The Force is space magic. We don't need to know how it works. Was anyone curious about how the Force worked?
Well, I'm sure there were people, but it's one of the things that anything you could come up with is automatically going to be more interesting than what they actually say.
Well, sure. And we get introduced to more Jedi in the More Jedi Order, which should be cool, except that the Jedi are pretty dumb. They don't notice the most obvious villain ever, Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on, guys, take a look at him. Jesus.
He might as well have just had a giant forehead stamp.
Yeah, just in case you didn't know, I'm the villain. Yeah. Also, we get a weird power, shift of how powerful the Jedi actually are in between movies or whatnot. Like, oh, well, sometimes they're super powerful and they can't get killed, and sometimes they are just immediately killed by blaster bolts, which I thought they were immune to blaster bolts. They could just knock those aside.
Right. Well, like most video games just have it that's just an automatic thing you get most of the times. Like, yeah, you just kind of deflect blaster bolts because you can.
Well, anyway, let's move away from the prequels.
Oh, thank God.
We can move away from those. That's been talked to death. Let's move to some of the other things. Some of the things we enjoyed. One of the things I enjoyed in the prequel universe was actually the Clone Wars cartoon. Oh, yeah. Not the Clone Wars cartoon that Lucasfilm made, the 3D CGI one, the original one, before Revenge of the Sith came out. The Genndy Tartakovsky one. If you don't know who Genndy Tartakovsky is, he made Samurai Jack, among other great animated films, but this one is done in that style. The Clone Wars, it's basically a lead-in to Revenge of the Sith. It picks up where Attack of the Clones leaves off, and it kind of connects the dots all the way to Revenge of the Sith, where the last episode is actually set right before Revenge of the Sith starts up, to where you could watch that series and lead right into that movie.
And that would almost be advised, because that series is amazing.
Well, yeah, and Revenge of the Sith kind of plays off of some of the things that happen in there.
Yep.
I can't explain to you how good this series is.
Well, if any of you have watched Samurai Jack and you've enjoyed that, just imagine that with Jedi.
Imagine Samurai Jack if Samurai Jack could wield Force powers and a lightsaber.
Not that he needed it, but...
It has entire episodes where there's little to no dialogue. It's also the show that introduces a lot of the universe's more well-known villains, including Ventress and my personal favorite, General Grievous.
That noise.
He is coming alone.
We can't face him!
We must try, Padawan.
It's close, but where? It's all around us!
Calm yourself. Steady. Steady. No!
Get back!
He comes in and wipes the floor with them. And he's creepy. His design is like this weird skeletal bone thing.
It's big, but at the same time sleek.
He starts using he starts with one lightsaber, and he has collections of lightsabers of Jedi he's killed, like trophies along his belt. He starts off with one in the fight, then he moves to two, then he uses his foot to fight with three at a time. Mm-hmm. And the animation for the fight, along with all the other fights, is great. The thing with General Grievous in the animated universe is that he is treated like a horror villain. He is a force of nature. He doesn't feel anything. He doesn't speak anything. He's just Jason with a lightsaber. He's scary. When he shows up, you get nervous because whoever's in the room is probably gonna die.
And what's even better is that you have all these Jedis who can not only use their lightsabers, hopefully proficiently, but they also have the advantage of the Force. And Grievous doesn't.
He doesn't use the Force at all. He's strictly using the lightsaber, and he's just so, I'm not sure if he's just so good or if his fighting style is so weird. Because later, it's also, if you've seen him in anywhere else, it revealed he can pop out another 4 arms and use 4 lightsabers at a time. But yeah, he is scary as balls. And when he's introduced in the movies, the thing with it was that I watched that cartoon series and I actually made the dumb decision of getting excited for Revenge of the Sith again. And he pops up really early in it.
Like almost one of the first scenes.
And the minute he starts talking, I go, what is this? He starts talking, they give him a wheeze and a rasp. So Jedi. I'm like, oh, come on, no.
It's like they were almost trying to make him a prototype Vader.
I can see that, yeah. That he's sort of like the mix of technology and biology. So I can see where they're coming from there, I guess. It's just,
it kind of fails.
He loses so much. And in the Revenge of the Sith, in the fight he has with Obi-Wan, it's just, it's drawn out. It turns into a chase scene at the end. He uses the 4 lightsabers, loses 2 of his arms immediately. I don't know. It's just not a satisfying conclusion for a villain that was so intimidating and cool. To be fair, I haven't watched a lot of Attack of the Clones, so I'm not sure if he gets better. I have watched a couple of a few, almost halfway through season 1, and when he appears in there, he seems like the same character that, he can't really knock off any of the main, characters, so they just give him some, Padawans to kill.
That's boring.
I'm not a super huge fan of the Clone Wars, the Lucasfilm one, which I guess we should move on and talk about that a little bit. Have you watched any of the Lucasfilm Clone Wars?
I haven't seen any of that one, no.
I watched a little bit. I'll tell you what, it immediately loses something with me that it's not 2D animated. I mean, I know it's not Genndy Darakovsky, it's a different vision, but that 3D animation style, I don't like it.
No, I don't either.
On multiple occasions I've told you I don't like the 3D animation for TV. I don't think we're there yet. It makes things look blocky, and people don't quite move right. They are, it's hard to explain, but the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle show does the 3D as well, and I'm not really a big fan of that. The latest Beware the Batman cartoon used it, and it sucked hard in that. It made the fights just uninteresting to watch. I don't know if it's just me and if I have a problem with that, but that 3D animation style, it's so blocky and it's obviously making things look like the toys do. So it's just, I mean, I know it's a big advertisement for the toys anyway, but I can live with the toys not looking like what they originally looked like in the cartoon.
Well, you know me, I always have a problem with 3D anything, because they keep trying to force us for a while there, when, it started getting big, they basically force us, like, hey, you have to watch this movie in 3D, and as someone who wears glasses especially, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. That will give me a headache the whole 3-hour movie you made me watch. No thanks.
So that's a little different of the 3D technology. The CGI 3D, in movies we've gotten to a pretty good place with it.
Well, I think the main problem is that the 3D CGI for current television looks very similar to PS2 CGI when you have like blocky Lara Croft.
Well, sure, you have to work within the TV budget, which to me, why wouldn't you just use 2D animation, which has only gotten better with time? Replacing like Young Justice with Beware the Batman and stuff like that on Cartoon Network, I just thought like, wow, you had a really great animation style, a great story, and you replaced it with this generic Batman cartoon with a generic look to basically try and pump more money out of it. To be fair, like it's pretty much canceled. It failed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure we'll get a new. They're talking about a new Justice League cartoon right now, which sounds pretty cool. I don't have any information on it right now, but I'm willing to give it a chance at least.
It can't be much worse.
To be fair, the Clone Wars cartoon, the Lucasfilm one, I've heard from multiple sources that it gets better later on.
That seems to be the trend lately.
And we actually did watch a later episode that was pretty cool.
Oh yes, we were shown that.
Yeah, we actually saw one. I don't know what season it was, but it was the arc where they are on the Mandalorian world, and Obi-Wan has to save an old girlfriend of his, and they have to try and escape the Mandalorian world. And that was actually it was a pretty fun episode, with the caveat that they rip off episode 4 lines from it, almost left and right.
It's almost a remake. It's pretty sad.
They do you're pretty short for a Mandalorian warrior sort of thing. A lot of the scenes play almost exactly like the escape scene from the Death Star. It might be a thing throughout the series, but they repeat a lot of the lines from it, not just "May the Force be with you" and I have a bad feeling about this, but other direct lines they repeat. It had a pretty cool thing because the Clone Wars, they apparently bring back Darth Maul.
Yep.
Which I'm not sure how that works, considering he was like really dead.
He was pretty wasted.
He as far as charts for how dead a person is, he got cut in half, so that's pretty dead to me. I don't know if he has robot legs or if they stitched him together.
I remember he was part bionic now or something.
But they bring him back, and he talks, which it wasn't as established that Grievous as that he didn't talk.
He didn't show for very long. He was just menacing.
You know what that is? Back to things we like about Phantom Menace. Yep. That fight scene with Darth Maul, that is cool as shit.
Yeah, double-sided lightsaber.
That was awesome. The whole fight, the music during the choreography, where we actually get to see martial artists, the guy who played Darth Maul is a professional martial artist, and he, coordinating with that into a lightsaber style. That was pretty cool.
You thought of one good thing about those movies.
We thought about a couple.
Well,
to be fair. Yeah, so they used Darth Maul and his brother. Mm-hmm. He has a brother now who is a yellow version of him. Whatever his race is. That's a weird thing about Star Wars too, is that I don't know, it's not like Star Trek where everyone knows the different races, or I'm sure, some, fans know all the different races, but it's with Star Wars.
You have to go and you have to read the other content to figure it out.
Yeah, well, with Star Wars, there's so many different alien type races, but we almost know nothing about them unless you read the extended universe stuff. Which I guess I should get into that too, but we'll get into that in a minute. First I want to talk a little bit about Star Wars Rebels, the new cartoon.
Yep.
I'm caught up on it. I am liking it.
Oh yeah.
I was a little iffy about it on season 1. Everyone was saying how good it was and that it was, like, oh, this is so great, you should totally watch it. I was not as sold on season 1. I thought the stakes weren't really there. It follows the story of one of the last remaining Jedi, and he finds a new force-sensitive kid, and he takes him on his crew of a mercenary ship. It's basically the Firefly ship if they had a Jedi on it.
I was able to say that.
So yeah, it's very much the Firefly ship. They call it the Ghost, and they are the first remnants, the first beginnings of the Rebel Alliance, fighting the first people actively trying to fight the Empire. They follow a mysterious figure that has a cool reveal later who their leader is. At the end of season 1, it's actually a neat reveal on who it is. They introduced some new races. Steve Blum plays a new race of character that apparently was almost completely wiped out. That's why we've never seen one of them before. Okay. We have the main antagonist is another Sith, not a Sith Lord, but a Sith Inquisitor is what they call them. I don't remember his actual name. They just call him the Inquisitor most of the time.
Well, that's gonna get confusing.
He has a weird spinny lightsaber because every new villain needs a different type of lightsaber, I guess. That's just a rule. Anyway, it's fun. It's okay. It never really feels like they're in any actual danger. Up until season 2, which season 2 starts off with a 2-part movie, that actually brings in Darth Vader.
Ooh.
Yeah, voiced by, and voiced by James Earl Jones.
Nice.
Yeah, and he comes in and he's a badass. He, messes them up pretty hardcore. They don't know what to do. They throw a freaking starfighter at him. He just gets up, shakes that off, kicks the main guy, the main guy for the ship. His name's Caden. Kicks his ass along with the new Padawan. So yeah, they establish him as holy crap, what was that? It's I have no idea what that was, but we can't run into that again because we just barely got away. They up the stakes right off the bat. The downside is that after that movie, they introduced 2 new Inquisitors to send after him. And it's a step down because the Darth Vader thing was so cool. Right. And it's been a while since we got to see Darth Vader be
just kicking butt.
Super kick ass. Yeah, he was, it was super cool.
Reasserting his dominance.
Well, yeah, they play the music, the Imperial March, and it's what is oh crap. And ever since that, season 2 has upped the stakes where they are part of the Rebel Alliance now. The Rebel Alliance is fully established. They're a kind of a mercenary ship for them. That they work special jobs for them, and they actually work with rebel ships now, and they basically introducing fodder for people to die on their side. And they're trying to do things like transport food to imperial controlled planets that are starving. The Empire is starving.
Smuggling.
Yeah, they're smuggling food in there because the Empire is trying to starve them out. And they're on missions that are if they fail, if they lose the cargo, people will starve to death. So it has more.
If not stakes for them personally, then at least they're there.
Right, because you'll never believe that any of them could actually die, right. But there's stakes for the people around them.
Because this is not Firefly and not by Joss Whedon. So.
And actually, the voice work is pretty good. I've already mentioned Steve Blum. Freddie Prinze Jr. does a great turn as the lead Jedi, the Caden.
He's been getting better and better.
Yeah, I really like him as a voice actor. If you don't know, he was he's done some great voice work, including Vega from Mass Effect, and just recently he was the Iron Bull in Dragon Age Inquisition. Some of the better BioWare characters, actually. Vega's a little hit and miss for me, but I really like Iron Bull.
Right, Iron Bull's great.
And he does a great job voicing them.
Even if you don't like the characters, you can admit that.
Yeah, maybe it's just that I don't know I want to see his face, as harsh as that sounds, but he does it, a great job. There's a female Mandalorian warrior on their team.
Oh, you gotta get one female of each race, huh?
Well, yeah, we get a Twi'lek is Caden's wife as well as pilot. We get the droid that everyone can understand, but we can't, because apparently everyone speaks droid in that universe.
I don't know, man. This sounds a lot like Firefly.
It's when I watch it, I get a very Firefly feel of a lot of the characters. The Mandalorian is actually a street artist as well. She tags things like graphic artists. Oh. It's weird. There's a weird, of course, sexual tension between the new kid and the Mandalorian girl, which is weird for me because I don't know how old she is. The kid seems like, 13, 14.
Well, let's face it, Star Wars has never had quite a problem with age differences, so...
I guess. It seems weird because they never establish her age, and she could be, they make her character to where she could easily be in her low 20s. But, the way she's drawn, she could be in her late teens as well, so maybe it's not as creepy as I think it is. I don't know, I'm a little more excited about it. The latest episode actually brought in the B-Wing. If you're a Star Wars nerd, they actually go into, we need a new fighter to help us with runs against the Empire, so they go to this star system to find the new design for this fighter that's supposed to be this epic fighter, and it turns out to be the B-Wing from the classic movies. So it kind of introduces the new technology in kind of cool ways like that. Like the B-Wing is like this legendary design sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And when you see it, you kind of get that cool, like, oh shit, I know what that is. Right. So yeah, that's fun. I suppose I should, at this point, we're going to go into, the extended universe, which I should explain a little bit about the canon of Star Wars.
A mess.
The canon is kind of a clusterfuck, to put it lightly. As far as I understand it now, the only things that are canon, like straight canon, are the 6 movies, and continuing on, the movies now from Force Awakens onward, the Clone Wars cartoon, the Lucasfilms one, not the Jenny Tarkovsky ones, the Lucasfilm ones, and Star Wars Rebels. Other than that, everything else has been wiped out from continuity. Which, if you don't know, there are there's got to be dozens, if not 100 Star Wars novels that were released that take place from anywhere thousands of years before the Star Wars original trilogy or 100 years afterwards.
There's so many better stories than the movies 1, 2, and 3 that...
They further go into the story, and they introduce characters like Han and Leia's kids. They Leia has twin kids that are also Force sensitive that grow up and become Jedi. The Empire is still kicking around and fighting the rebels. They broker a peace treaty only to get attacked by another alien bug race that are kind of like the Klingon. I think they're called the Yuuzhan Vong. Those were the books I read, was the Yuuzhan Vong arc. And they introduce new Jedi, new characters, new Sith get found out afterwards. They add in heavy continuity stuff. Luke becomes the Jedi leader, one of the original masters of the New Order. They're back to being a peacekeeping operation, and they're going out to find new people. There's a lot of canon that got wiped out because of this, and I can understand it because they want to do their own stories for what happens after the movies, but they're not even including the stuff that happens before the prequels.
Right, one of my personal favorites, the video game of...
Oh yes, let's move on to the video games of the Star Wars universe. One of the places where I think they've done their best storytelling since the original trilogy. Games like the Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2.
Yep, cult classics.
I'm only partway through the first one, but I'm liking it. It's very much Star Wars as a D&D campaign, but in a really cool way. It's, made by BioWare, so again, very...
Actually, the first one's made by BioWare.
Is the first one made by BioWare?
I believe the second one was actually by LucasArts.
Oh, the second one was by LucasArts. Oh, LucasArts...
I know one of them made one with the other. I'm pretty sure it's that.
LucasArts is usually the company, they have their own video game company, which I assume is bought out by Disney now.
I'm not sure on that one, but I'm guessing.
So, yeah. Anyway, I know the BioWare made the MMO, the Knights, the Old Republic, not the Knights of, just straight up the Old Republic. Yep. I'm not sure how the actual game is. It's an MMO, so you can kind of guess what the types of, but it looks kind of story heavy. The trailers for it are kick ass.
Yep.
The trailers for the video games are kind of like mini stories in themselves. Yeah, the Knights of the Old Republic being if you watch all the trailers for that movie, it's almost its own little mini story arc, where a Jedi gets revenge for her master being killed. It's pretty cool stuff. One of the better story ones was actually a little game called Force Unleashed.
Terrible game, though.
The game itself is kind of disappointing. The trailer for it got me super excited.
The demo as well.
If you want to look up just look up the trailer for the game, and you'll get chills, because it is a lone Sith warrior bringing down an empire, like a imperial starship by himself. And he like flips on the lightsaber. You hear Darth Vader voiceover. It's like, "You've done well, my apprentice." And you kind of just go, "Whoa, what is this?" The actual game kind of is disappointing. You are not as powerful as that.
No, it's a bad God of War ripoff.
Very much so. But the story in it is actually pretty compelling.
It's one of the best. I continually tell people how great that is.
You can, the story of it, I could easily see it being 2 movies in and of itself. It breaks off in the middle, and you can have that like dark ending for the first one and go right into the next one. For me, I was just like, why didn't you make this a movie? This should have been your prequel.
Right. They even tie it perfectly in with the beginning of the 4th movie's canon.
Yeah. Of course, now it's basically makes the Sith apprentice kind of the instigator of the Rebel Alliance. So I see why that would conflict with the new Star Wars Rebels show.
Yeah.
So they don't want to deal with that, but still, it was actually a really cool idea.
It's such a wasted piece of story once they got rid of it.
Yeah, Force Unleashed 2, I did not play.
I couldn't suffer through another amount of that gameplay.
Yeah, it's the gameplay is just not fun enough. You'd have to basically suffer through the gameplay to get to the story, and maybe one of these days I'll just watch the story online somewhere. I'm sure someone's caught it on YouTube or something. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting concept. Along with, I guess we should also mention the Battlefront games, considering the new ones coming out. Is it out yet?
It's not out yet. I think it's actually they might be doing a bundle of that one if I heard correctly.
I see. Well, the original Battlefront games were actually really fun.
For their time.
For their time, I don't think they've aged particularly well. But they were fun to throw on and co-op with a friend, you could play online with the original second one, I think, or maybe even the original first one. But back then, the PS2 online connection, I was never able to get online to play.
Well, that was the dark days when we still had dial-up.
Yeah, when if you had a good enough internet connection to actually play those games, it probably was really fun, because it was like 16 on 16 or something like that, right? Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, the new one is cut out basically a lot of the co-op. I originally thought that they said that there was going to be a co-op campaign. It looks like it's kind of just a horde mode with a little bit of story in it. Yeah, the new one looks pretty fun. It kind of has me excited. I don't know if I want to pay $60 for just an online multiplayer shooter, though.
Well, didn't they say that they added more to that one?
They said they did, but then I read another article saying that what they said they added, it has story and it has co-op, and it's basically just you and another player playing through horde levels that are narrated by something else. I don't know. I've seen conflicting stories about it, but yeah, they've taken a lot of the aspects from the original one. There's no hunt mode like in the original. In the original, you get to hunt there was hunt modes on it where you get to hunt Gungans or those snow creatures on a Hoth, whatever those were. You get to play as them as well as be the other side and try and hunt them down. They had a story campaign where you could actually go through the original trilogy and the prequels, certain important battles of it. Mm-hmm. You even get to play as Anakin and the invading clone troopers when they massacre the Jedi in the temple. One of my favorite little levels was trying to mow down hundreds of Jedi with a machine gun. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not as excited as I originally was for the new Battlefront as I thought I was gonna be. But the trailers look good. Maybe I'll give it a try if it comes down in price. Anyway, we should move on maybe to the comics. There's a lot of Star Wars comics. Originally, they were made by Dark Horse. I'm pretty sure Marvel had them for a time. There are new ones coming out based kind of in between the Star Wars and original trilogy. Oh, I should mention that the canon also includes anything made after 2014. Of the novels and comics made after 2014, that is included in canon.
So they're probably restricting who can do that then.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming they have a heavy hand in that, continuity wise. Right. I haven't seen anything like The Force Awakens or anything like that. everything that the comics have kind of been in between or like right after the original trilogy. You know, they have even like, I think Lando might be getting his own comic. Vader has his own comic right now. I actually have the first volume. It's actually really cool.
Is it?
Oh yeah. He first faced off with Jabba the Hutt, and the Emperor, it's set like right after A New Hope. So the Emperor is pissed with him. He's like, hey, you know that Death Star, that was not a cheap piece of property. You owe us for that.
We're still paying that off.
Yeah, I had 2 payments left on that. God damn. So he comes along and they sends him on a mission, but he takes a detour to Jabba the Hutt's palace. And he kind of comes in there. It's very much like the scene in Return of the Jedi where Luke comes in there. And like mind tricks his way in, and he faces off with Jabba, and he goes like, hey, I need you to do something for me. And they kind of have like a little like a power face off, like, well, I'm not going to do that for you unless I get like something in return. And Vader goes like, well, you'll get your life in return. So the thing with the Vader is that he wants to know more about this Force-sensitive kid that he felt right before the Death Star blew up. So he's actually trying to figure out who Luke is. He doesn't know who he is right off the bat.
Okay, that's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's basically his journey to figure out, hey, who is this Force-sensitive kid that is that powerful with the Force? Like, well, like who is this guy? So it's kind of him doing some espionage on the side while he's working for the Emperor to get info on Luke, and he even gets a little sidekick that goes with him.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird. You know, he meets up with, you know, villains, and basically he's going up against other bad guys, you know, smugglers and shit like that. So you don't really root against him because he's kind of wiping out other bad guys.
Right. Well, I'm kind of glad then that they're at least reestablishing Darth Vader as, you know, a badass, someone that can actually do shit.
Sure. Also, some of the older comics that I'm starting to read are the Legacy comics, which take place 100 years after the original trilogy, and they include like the last of the Skywalker line. This kid, the Jedi Temple gets attacked again. This is after the Yuuzhan Vong have attacked and the Sith are back in power. They come in with the Empire, strike up a deal, and they're like, hey, we'll help you out and as long as you help us kill these Jedi. And the Empire's like, oh yeah, sure. And then, like, immediately after the Jedi are dealt with, the Sith go like, okay, yeah, we're in charge. And the new Emperor goes like, hey, no, that wasn't the deal, and he gets his head cut off. So
making deals with the Sith seems like making a deal with the Joker. It's just not a good idea.
I couldn't, like, why did they think that was going to work out? Why? Especially with the new guy, the new Emperor, Lord of the Sith. He has like this bone mask and a really kind of cool design that's like bone armor. Yeah, he just screams evil.
Right.
And he doesn't scream like a trustworthy type of guy.
Did they pinky promise, Nick? Did they?
Yeah, so that surprisingly does not work out for them. We get introduced to a lot of new characters, new villains and stuff. It starts off with the Jedi being attacked, and then it cuts to years later where that kid has grown up. He's hidden his Force abilities. He doesn't want to be a Jedi. He's a smuggler. He has his own ship, not unlike Star Wars Rebels. He's very much more of a Han Solo type character rather than a Luke type. They even show him communicating with Luke Skywalker through the Force Ghost powers.
Oh.
Yeah. They have weird conversations because like it's Luke saying like, hey, get your act together, kid. You need to go save the galaxy. And he's like, nah, F that. I don't want to go save the galaxy. I'm not a Jedi. And, you know, that the whole reluctant hero type thing.
Right. Always a classic.
He gets hooked up with, like, the new, like, a general's daughter. The Empire has another faction that's working against the Sith as well. The only way to get to this general is through the daughter, so he hooks up with her when the whole Sith plot to assassinate her happens, and he gets in the middle of that. We get introduced to a pretty cool new Sith character called Darth Talon. She's a red Twi'lek. If I could describe her, imagine Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender. As well as shooting lightning, she also has a lightsaber.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, she is pretty cold. Like the first time we introduced to her, the new Sith Emperor asks her like, so this is your master, like next to you? Like, yes, he's my master. He's like, so he's the only person you know the best in the galaxy? Yes. Do you care for him? Yes. Kill him. And she immediately, without hesitation, slices that dude in half.
Wow.
The new emperor is like, do you understand why you did that? It's like, because it was asked of me. It's like, oh, you'll do nicely.
Well, that seems like for a Sith, that's not going to last very long, though.
Well, the Sith in this one, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of Sith. The new Emperor has kind of gone with the whole idea of there being always two Sith. They've pretty much gone like, nah, that's dumb. Okay. We're going to have a lot of Sith. And he communicates with other Force ghosts himself of previous emperors.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently it works that way too, the other way too, which would make sense, I guess.
Right.
And they kind of yell at him like, "Hey, you're messing up the system. There's always two. You know, there's always the one." They even say like one that has the power and one who wants the power. That's how the Sith system works.
Very terrible system.
And he goes, "Yeah, but don't you see how that's a terrible system and how we always end up losing because of that?" And so from that perspective, you kind of admire his practicality.
Yeah.
At least from that point on. I'm not too far into the story yet, but it seems pretty promising, although, you know, that also is not canon anymore. So if you're looking to see your favorite characters like Mara Jade or some of the other popular extended universe characters in the movies, I doubt we'll see them. Like maybe in a different version of what they are.
It's always possible they still take the character ideas.
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't get my hopes up, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
You can be pleasantly surprised if it happens. How about that?
We could talk about this for basically, you know, forever. There's enough. Star Wars is such a big franchise, but I think we'll cut it off for now. I think we've talked long enough. So I think this will be it for this week. Next week we'll be actually at an anime convention. Anyway, we'll be there. So I'm not sure what we're gonna do for recording, but if little else, I can bring like a microphone. We'll record a little something. If we have to post a late episode later, we'll do that. But I'm thinking next week, in honor of that, I think the next week should be Animania. Yes, you'll pay for the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge. This Sunday. But yeah,
it's not gonna be Sunday.
Yeah, it's not gonna be Sunday. Well, you know, this Thursday. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well. But yeah, we'll talk about anime, our favorite anime, and you know, our experiences at the Anime Con. We'll talk about that a little bit, and if you want to contact us or ask us a question, we'll read it on the air, and you can do that through our Facebook page. Just send us a message or post it to the page, or through our Twitter account at Unapologetic Geek Out at Twitter, or you can send it to email to unapologeticgeekout@gmail.com. Whatever way is most convenient for you. And I think, unless you have anything to add, I think that'll be it for this week.
That sounds good.
All right, signing out. See you next week, guys.